Everybody okay online? Is this sound okay online? Let me just make sure it's on the right thing. That should be better online now. You should hear me fine. Okay, better? Okay, Bismillah. So, Bismillah. So, remember when we're doing this, is our first chapter we're doing from the fiqh book in terms of the fiqh. The expectation is that you are able to you understand all the words in Arabic and you are able to translate all the words in Arabic, inshallah ta'ala. I will have many discussions around the fiqh. The discussions, you can make your own notes, inshallah. But the minimum is just to know what is in the book, inshallah ta'ala. So, Bismillah, who wants to read? Who wants to read the first line, Faslun? So you just read, inshallah, just say, Yajibu. No. Bismillah, who wants to, not together, I mean, one of you. Okay, start on the right, inshallah, I'm going to go. Next to inshallah, Bismillah. Yajibu. Okay, Bismillah, mashallah. Naam. So the bab is Sawm and the a fasl is like a section or a chapter or well not a chapter but a section of a chapter, a fasl. Fasala yufasilu means to like to have separation. Therefore, fasl is also a classroom as well. Because classrooms are like grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, it's a fasl as well. So it says here, Yajibu Sawmu Ramadana. Let's all read together. Yajibu. Yajibu Sawmu Ramadana bi ahadi umuri khamsatin. Yajibu. Yajibu comes from which word? From wajib. Wajib. Yajibu is the verb for something to become wajib. Okay. Yajibu is the verb to say it becomes compulsory. Yajibu. Becomes compulsory. What becomes compulsory? Where is the fa'il for yajibu? Sawmu. Sawmu is the fa'il. And you can see Ramadan is what? Is what? Get 5 points if not answer. It is the mudafun ilay. And why is it has a fatha on it, not a kasra? Because غير منصرف. So yajibu. Sawmu Ramadan. Sawmu Ramadan. The fasting of Ramadan. Yajibu is compulsory. Becomes compulsory. When does it become compulsory? بأحد أمور خمسة. بأحد by one of the umur, the matters below. خمسة, one of the five matters below. Like in 5 ways, Ramadan can become compulsory. What does it mean in 5 ways? When does Ramadan become compulsory? When it starts. And so now we're discussing how does Sha'ban end and how does Ramadan begin. So from your own knowledge, how does it work? The sighting of the moon. So now we can discuss who can sight all of those things, inshallah. Carry on, Bismillah. أحدهما. Naam. So in Islamic months, how many days are there in a month? 29 or 30. There's never 28 and there's never 31. 29 or 30. What about the leap year? What about the leap year? Eh? We don't have a leap year. No. Why don't we have a leap year? Because what is the Gregorian calendar, the Western calendar based on? The sun. And our calendar is based on the. What is the benefit of us, of our calendar being based on the moon? What's the benefit? Think about it. Okay, so the months are rotating in terms of the seasons. So everybody gets a fair chance to have a summer Ramadan and a winter Ramadan. What else? How would you tell the months like before calendars and all of those things? How do you tell like when's the beginning of the month, middle of the month, end of the month? You look at the stages of the moon. If you were based on the sun, how where would you look? Where would you look? You understand the issue? You can't visibly see the months if it's based on the sun. You can't say, oh, it looks like January the 15th now or February the 16th. You can't see it now. You with me? Because the sun is not a reliable, it's not a visual marker. It's done by calculation. And so, therefore, the benefit of the moon is that the moon is literally like a calendar in the sky. So, for thousands of years and hundreds of years, people are able to look up and they can see, obviously, they're trained and they're used to it, they can see by the size of the moon what, what day of the month it is and whether it's waxing or waning. What's waxing? Getting bigger, and waning, smaller. So, the way it works is that when the moon is new, that's when the month begins. And then it waxes. Waxes means it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it's full. And when it's full, it's the middle of the month. And then it wanes, becomes smaller, 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 smaller until it's the next new moon and disappears. And then it becomes the end of the month. So anybody could look up and you could tell the, the time of the month. What do we use the sun for? We use the sun as a daily clock. You with me? Because you can look in the sky, you can see the time of day. That's easy. You can see, okay, now the sun is here, the shadows this way. It's morning time. You know, the sun is so high. It's duha time. The sun is so high. It's zuhur time, asr time. And so Islam is actually quite practical because it allows you to track days and time based on the sun and the moon in the way that works best for the sun and the moon. Okay, so it's like a deen for if you find yourself in the jungle, in the desert, you find yourself anywhere, you'd be able to track the months and be able to track the days. Okay. So when does a person say we're coming now to, I don't know, what's the Sha'ban date today? Anybody know? Say you come to the end of Sha'ban. On which day do they go look for the moon for Ramadan? On which day? Okay, so when we say in our terms, if today is the 29th day, say for example today is the 29th day, then tonight is what? The 30th night, and tomorrow is the 30th day. So when are they going to view it? On the 29th day, the 30th night. The night after the 29th, they're going to view it. What happens if they see it? Then Sha'ban is how many days? 29, and what's the next day? The first of Ramadan. What happens if they don't see it? The next day is the 30th of Sha'ban. Do they cite again? So they don't keep citing. If they don't see it on the 29th day, which is the 30th night, if they don't see it, then the next day is the 30th, then automatically the following day will be the first of Ramadan. So the first thing the author mentions here is that if you have Kamal, if you have the completion of Sha'ban, of 30 yawman, if you have the completion of 30 days of Sha'ban, what is definitely the next day? The first of Ramadan, and in the first of Ramadan, what's going to happen? Yajibu Sawmu Ramadan. That the fasting of Ramadan is going to become wajib. You with me the first one? No. Next one, Bismillah. No, okay, it's pause inshallah. So when we are sighting the moon, um, we differentiate between a trustworthy person and a non-trustworthy person. How to differentiate? Generally, a trustworthy person mustn't have committed any major sins that people know about. A trustworthy person must uphold all of the halal, all of the compulsory things in Islam. And the trustworthy person mustn't also have persisted upon minor sins. Like, for example, maybe like swearing is like a minor sin, they swear all the time. There mustn't be someone like who swears all the time because then they're not like a trustworthy witness. And so we separate between a trustworthy witness and a non-trustworthy witness. So what happens here is that what if the person sees it, but they're not considered to be trustworthy? For example, let's say they're a druggie or something. What happens then? We can't take the word, but for the person itself, they must take their own word. You understand? We can't accept the word, like the Islamic authority can't take the word, but for that person, they convinced they saw it, so they must take their own words. So for them is the next day of Ramadan, not for the rest. You with me? For them, because they said they saw the crescent. And so when you see the crescent, the new month starts. So if they saw it and they believe they saw it, then they must take their own word, even though the official like ruler or judge can't take their word. So that's the second scenario. برؤية الهلال. The ru'ya, the viewing, the seeing of the hilal. Hilal is like the new crescent moon. The new crescent moon. في in حق من رآه. في regarding حق, let's call it what's it, the right, the capacity of man ra'ahu, whoever sees it. Meaning what? Whoever sees it, for them, Ramadan is definitely compulsory the next day. في حق من رآه. Like in relation to whoever sees it. وإن كان فاسقا, وإن, and even if كان, that person is a fasiq, that person is a sinner. Like an open sinner. If they see the hilal, they need to fast the next day because they saw the hilal, and Ramadan is therefore for them. Now, so Bismillah, next one. Okay, pause inshallah. So the next one is when a person sees it, but they're upright person, a trustworthy witness. They don't commit major sins, they don't persist on minor sins, they uphold all Allah's laws, they act honorably. They are a trustworthy witness. If they see the moon, then Ramadan becomes binding upon all of us. Remember, we don't all see the moon ourselves. Someone has to see the moon, it has to be a trustworthy person. So if someone else sees the moon, for the rest of us, it becomes binding. So, بثبوت, so ثالث, the third way Ramadan enters is بثبوته, by it Ramadan being established, by the sighting of the crescent being established, في حقه, in regard to man lam yarahu. It is established regarding those who haven't seen it. So what does it mean? That Ramadan becomes wajib to those that haven't seen it. How? Bi'adli shahadatin. Bi'adli, by an adl. Adl is like a just, upright person. Shahada means that they witness. By the just witnessing of the moon. Or the witnessing of the moon by an upright person. If they see it, and then Ramadan becomes wajib upon all of us. Okay, we'll discuss the alternatives afterwards, inshallah. Now, okay. So what is the process, practically speaking? The process, practically speaking, is that we have example the MJC, the Muslim Judicial Council. They're the oldest one established in the Western Cape. And then, for example, in Durban, you have the Jamiatul Ulama, Durban, and you have the Darul Ihsan in Durban. In Joburg, you have the Jamiat Ulama there as well. All of these Islamic bodies fall under one body called what? Don't know. Called UQSA. UQSA. So UQSA is the United Ulama Council of South Africa. So let's go to it. So I can just show you what's happening in the background, inshallah ta'ala. So this is UQSA. So UQSA is the United Ulama Council of South Africa. And one of the things, like people criticize the ulama for many things, and some of those are justified. But one thing I must say is that as South African Muslims, our ulama are quite actually coordinated and united. Because the fact that all of these bodies can come together and operate under one body is something which is unusual. You don't find it in other countries anywhere. And so, let me just see if they have, I don't know if they have a about us section here. And you find there the president of UQSA is who? Maula Abdul Khaliq Ali. For some reason, the president of UQSA is always a Cape Townian. That's like one of the rules. You know why? Because they in Joburg and Durban, they like to like fight a bit. They're arguing there. And so, okay, make a Cape Townian the leader always, because we like the easygoing people. We like Bismillah, it's okay, you can all come. And so really, so always the president of UXA is always a Cape Townian. It's always from the MJC. Anyway, and so this, let me just see if they have here. So you'll find here, do they have all the bodies here? I don't know if they have all the bodies here even. Okay, anyway, so the ulama, the UXA, let me just see UXA members. Okay, I must actually find. Anyway, so if you look at here, these are all the members here. So the MJC is a member of UQSA, Jamiat Ulama South Africa, Jamiat Ulama KZN, Sunni Jamiat Ulama. So normally in Joburg, Durban, they have a split between the Deobandis and the Baralvi Sunnis, and they all argue, but they all belong to UQSA. Even though they have different positions, they belong to UQSA. Sunni Ulama Council, Council of Ulama Eastern Cape, Eastern Cape Islamic Congress, African Muslim Council. So there's lots of bodies in there and some other affiliate bodies. They all fall under UQSA. And so what happens is that on the 29th of Sha'ban, they will have people in all the sighting stations. Then if someone sights the moon, then they will basically first ask the person, where did you see it? What shape was it in? Just to like almost like verify. Obviously, the person must be trustworthy, but they also question the person in terms of, was it this way? Was it this way? Was it here? Was it there? Obviously, the person like points, I saw it there, but the moon is here. Then you can't like accept that. And so they will basically coordinate that. And then if there's a sighting anywhere in South Africa, they will then inform all the bodies, and then we'll have a unified beginning of Ramadan in South Africa. So that's basically how it works. In, no. They sight to the naked eye. I'll speak about telescopes a bit later, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, so now they sight to the naked eye or glasses, because glasses is like the same as naked eye. Um, no. So I'll just if I explain to you how it works practically in South Africa, according to there are obviously other groups, and we'll speak about other groups later on, but this is how it works. And so they're gonna do this one here, meaning what? They're gonna check if the person is adli shahada, and what we have in Cape Town is we have something called the man cakers. You know the man cakers? You heard about them. So the Mankakers are like a group of people. They're actually quite unique because they go sight the moon every single month, like for decades. I think they're one of the only places in the world where they have such meticulous records, because for decades they've been checking the sighting and documenting it for a long, long time. So we still have a group of, so they're almost like trained to see the moon because they do it every month for like decades and decades and decades. And so when they generally the ones who will see the moon. And so when that is established and the person is idle, the person is a just, upright person, then Ramadan becomes wajib for the rest of us. No. But luckily in South Africa, we have the unity of most of the ulama bodies, so there's generally unity. Except here and there, but we generally have unity. Number four, Rabi'uha. Okay, so sometimes the fiqh, you're going to find that the fiqh is not, it's not so applicable. But so let's say there's two people. There's two people. This one here is the adult person. Adult means a trustworthy person. If the trustworthy person comes to you and says, I saw the moon, this person is trustworthy, you must accept his sighting even if you don't believe him. Because the person is an adult person. Then if someone comes like a sinner person, he says, I saw the moon. If you trust his judgment, then Ramadan becomes wajib for you too. If you don't trust his judgment, Ramadan doesn't become wajib for you. Okay. I'm saying it's not applicable here because we have like judicial bodies and to sort it out. I'm just saying this is what the theory of the fiqh is. If you were like in a desert somewhere and an adult came to you and says, I saw the moon, even if you ask like, who are you? And you must accept it because he's an adult. If a sinner came to you, if you believe him to be telling the truth, then Ramadan is established for you. If not, it's not established. No, so the criteria basically is that the person mustn't have been known to commit a major sin. So they mustn't be on drugs, they mustn't drink alcohol, they mustn't have committed abuse, they mustn't have committed murder. You know, they mustn't have been known to make a major sin. They must, and also to leave salah also is a major sin. If they make tawbah and they have some track record, then you can accept them. And so then the second thing is they mustn't have persisted on any minor sins. So they mustn't have like spoken badly and been lying and all of that. So it's a outward judgment of the person. Obviously, in the heart, only Allah knows. But I'm saying that is what we look at. We look at it's called uh, the zahir, the outside behavior. And if the outside behavior, maybe it's a man who always in the masjid praying 5 times a day, and he has beautiful adab and akhlaq and all of those things, and he's not known to commit any sins in public, then that person is an idol, you know, because they carry themselves as a believer, and so that's what we use basically. Yeah, if you don't know, you don't know. I mean, like you could only act on what you know. Yeah, because you don't know. So in your mind, they didn't commit any major sins. No. Okay. So yeah, so that's a number four. Here is a bit a lot of Arabic, but yeah, you can follow me inshallah. Rabi'uha is the fourth condition. Bi ikhbar. What's ikhbar? What's a khabar? Khabar is news. So akhbara yukhbiru ikhbaran, fourth bab, causation, by the informing, the causing of news, by the informing of adli riwayatin mawthuqin. What does adli mean again? Just person. What does the riwaya mean? The narrating. So by the narration, like the testimony of a adl, mawthukun bihi means that person is mawthuk, that person is trustworthy. So he's a just trustworthy person. If that person makes riwaya that they saw the moon or the moon was sighted, um, then you have to accept it. Sawa'un, regardless of whether, sawa'un means like whether this or this. Sawa'un, whether waqa'a fil qalbi occurs in the heart of the listener, sidquhu amla, him being truthful or not. So whatever you think of the person, maybe you don't like the person, then you're like, no, I'm not listening to you. You know, it doesn't matter what you feel. If the person is adl and the riwayah is accepted, then you have to accept their riwayah. Naam. So sidquhu amla. Oh, that's the one scenario. That's scenario A. O is scenario B. Scenario B. O, by the riwayah of someone who is غير موثوق به. What's غير موثوق? غير موثوق means trustworthy. So غير موثوق means someone who is not trustworthy. به, regarding that person. In, if وقع occurs في القلب, in the heart of the listener, صدقه, the fact that he's being truthful. So maybe someone comes and they haven't lived a good life, but they say, Wallahi, I saw the moon, and you believe them to be true, and then you have to accept them because you feel that they have seen the moon, but it's not binding on the rest of the community. Okay. Khamis, last one. Bismillah. Okay, and the khamis, the last one is bidan. Dhan means when there's like a degree of probability. Dhan means with a degree of probability. So dhan means when you think it's probable that dukhuli Ramadan, that the Ramadan has entered. And how do you get that probability? Bil ijtihad, by working out, by calculating. Naam. في من اشتبه عليه ذلك, to the one اشتبه, it is unclear upon him whether the moon was sighted or not. This is a very rare case. This is a case more, it's not referring to a community, this is referring to someone who's maybe like in a land where there's no moon sighting, or say someone is in prison and they can't see the moon and there's no one to tell them it's Ramadan started. They have to just work it out and calculate it. Now, okay. So those are that is so the way I'll approach it is I'll always read the text and I'll give you the default views in the madhahib, and then I'll give you the other views, the default views in the madhahib, and then I'll give you the other views. Okay. Sorry? Dhan. Uh, Dhan has many meanings. In this case, it means probable, something which is probable. But dhan can mean doubt sometimes, but here it means something probable. No, that's good. It was 50-50 called Waham. Waham is 50-50. Dhan is like I'm 75, 80%, 90% sure. Dhan is like probably sure. Okay. So now let's discuss all the other discussions. Okay, so this is like has been a contentious issue in Cape Town for many years in terms of not so much for Ramadan, but more for Eid al-Adha, Laban al-Hajj, in terms of the sighting of the moon. The traditional opinion that you find within the madhahib is that the moon has to be sighted directly with the eye. So you have to see it directly with the eye. And so, um, if you are looking at the moon, are you looking at it with your eye? Okay. Then if someone has poor eyesight and they put glasses on, are they looking at it with their eye? Yes. And then if you have one of those old school telescopes and you put the telescope like that, are you seeing it with your eye? Okay. The truth is, it depends on the type of telescope. If the telescope is simply like a magnification telescope, meaning what, you have two magnification things, and it's magnifying it, you seeing it with your eye. If it's a reflection telescope, you're not seeing it with your eye, you're seeing a reflection of it. You with me? Because some of the telescopes have like a mirror in, and they have like different types of I don't know my telescope technology, but maybe some of you know. So some of them have like a I don't know what you call it, a refractive telescope. I'm not sure exactly the name of it, but it basically you can see it through a mirror. Then in terms of the classical fiqh, you are not looking at the moon directly. You're looking at the reflection of the moon, because it's like reflecting into something else. You're not having a direct witness. That's a very technical, literal point, but that is generally the position of the madhab in terms of the classical view. What we find in South Africa, we don't really, I don't know why, but we don't really use a telescope, even though it is permissible to use it, the one that you see directly with, not the one that has the reflection in. You with me? Now I'm saying it is permissible, but I don't know. It doesn't seem to be used here. But if someone had to use it and could see the moon, there would be no issue with it because they're looking at the moon directly. They're seeing the actual reflection. Then, in terms of who does that sighting apply to? Okay. I don't know if we can do it here, um, but maybe we can just do it here. Uh, Time zone sunrise. I don't know if you can show this here. What I'm trying to show you is uh, is that there's something called a, what do you call this thing? Let's call it, I don't know if it's the right chart here, but there's something called a matla. A matla is where the sun rises at the same time. So where the sun rises at the same time. So for example, can you see the sun doesn't, it's not like straight lines up, it's like curved lines that the sun rises in. And so there's like going to be three different opinions because now you're saying, say I see it in Cape Town, who else can fast? Can they fast in like Congo? Can they fast in Zimbabwe? Can they fast in Zambia? Like at what stage can they fast? So there's two classical opinions and one contemporary opinion. So the classical opinion is the one opinion in the Shafi madhab is that if they share like a sunrise line, we call them a matla, if they share that line, everybody that's linked to that line can fast. Anybody like who's behind it. Meaning what? Can you see that if we see it, it's not exactly the right thing, but for example, if you see it here, then this green area here, it applies to because they're all on the same. Their day and night is almost the same. Do you with me? It's more or less the same. What I remember, it's the same or can be earlier basically. No, so it's basically it'll be here and that which is earlier. So if it's here, like if I see it here, then it applies to the west. No, it'll basically be on like in the same continent to the west. So everybody to the west, it will apply to. Now they're different matla. So the matla there you can see, here's Makkah, there's London. So they're different sunrise. I don't think this thing's actually accurate, but they're different sunrise times. Okay. Yes, yes. So it'll be everybody who has the same sunrise or has an earlier sunrise. Yeah. And then the next thing is going to be some ulama said that um, everybody who sights it and everybody who's around them, that is 82 kilometers around them. Right? Because 82 kilometers is when you become musafir. So some ulama said that's the classical thing, is that those who are immediately around them, it only applies to them. What we have done is like a new view, not generally found in the classical books, as far as I know, is that we've adopted like a country sighting. Because obviously countries don't exist back in the day. So we've adopted what we call like a country sighting. So we said that because the ulama are in charge of South Africa and they have bodies and they have judiciary in South Africa, any viewing in South Africa applies to the whole South Africa. So that's the one that we're currently practicing. We're currently practicing. There is some discussion in terms of should we move that border up into the neighboring countries. Because sometimes what happens is that you can sight the moon, which is like strange, but anyway, you can sight the moon just over the border of South Africa, but you don't sight in South Africa. Then like 10 kilometers away it's Eid, but it's not Eid here. You with me? So there's some discussion around are we going to extend it into the rest of Southern Africa? But for now, the ulama have kept it within the borders of South Africa. Yes, yes. Yeah, so what I'm saying is that traditionally the fiqh didn't look at countries, they looked at the sunrise line. So they didn't worry if it's one country or three countries. If there's three lines, it's three different areas. You with me? No, no, so I'm saying that's in the classical fiqh. What I'm saying is what has happened now because we've moved to like nation states, people have said, okay, let's use the country now as the regional siting. So what I'm saying is at the moment that regional siting is South Africa. It may extend in future years to Namibia and Zimbabwe, depending on the relationship with ulama, because also you have to be able to administer the sighting. You with me? You need administration for someone to go see who sighted the moon. You have to interview them. You need administration for you to conduct it. Okay. So all of that I mentioned now, all of those are linked in one category. What are those category? That category is physical sightings of the moon. You with me? Physical sightings, looking at the moon with your eye or with the glasses or with a telescope that doesn't have reflection in. Okay. Then you have a new category, which is the calculation group. Because now we're able to, oh, my time's up here. Is my here? Okay. Because we're able to calculate now, people can calculate the birth of the new moon. And so there is a group that basically says that the word shahida, because the Quran says, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Whoever shahida, normally shahida is an eyewitness, someone who sees something, and that they've taken that and they've made a metaphorical application. They have a metaphorical application, which is a new application in fiqh. It's not the traditional view. And they said, okay, calculation is a form of like mathematical witnessing. You with me? Because you can calculate. And so there are some groups, I think Claremont Mineral Mosque uses calculation. And I think Kapini Street, they use calculation. And so they've gone that way. So that's group number 2. Then you have group number 3. Group number 3 is we call them the Makkis. So the Makkis are, especially not now for Ramadan, the Makkis take a pause now, but the Makkis now, Eid al-Adha comes. Eid al-Adha comes with regard to Eid and the day of Arafah. So they would say that because Arafah is there and we can see Arafah, we should have the same Arafah. And if we have the same Arafah, we should have the same Eid as well. So it's going to be the Makki group, which doesn't really have a foundation. Like the last two don't have foundations in classical fiqh, they're new views. I'm not saying they're wrong, I'm just saying they're new. You with me? They're unprecedented. You won't find them in the classical books. The classical books is about seeing the moon. That's always been the case. Calculating the moon is something new, and keeping it with Makkah is something probably even newer. It was never done. It was never done before. And so those two groups are minority groups. Minority groups. But they all will have their arguments. You with me? They're all going to have their arguments, they're going to have their interpretations. And so these issues are often just matters of difference of opinion. No. And so if your family is a Makki, it's all right also. And if your family keeps it with calculation, that's fine also. There's no fundamental issue, but do know that it's not the majority view. The majority view is to do with sighting, and that's why that view is carried by all the ulama bodies in South Africa. All the ulama bodies carry it, the traditional ulama bodies. It's more breakaway groups that carry the other views. If we were actually a proper like Islamic state, what would have happened was when the ikhtilaf is personal, Islam allows you to do your own thing. You have Hanafi, you Shafi, no one's going to force you. But when the ikhtilaf affects the unity of the ummah, what would have happened was that there'd be a ruler of the ummah, and they would apply a qadi or a judge to make a judgment. And so the judge will then pronounce Eid will be on this day in this country, as happens in other countries. Other countries don't have two Eids. Other countries just say this is Eid and everybody has Eid. You with me? There's no like this group, this group, this group. But because we don't have a single authority in South Africa, people can do their own thing. You with me? But the actual correct solution is to have a single authority. And our position is that in the absence of a single political authority, UXA takes that space basically. We don't have a Muslim government, that runs the courts and all of those things. In the absence of that, our belief is that Uqsa, because it's an old body, it represents most of the ulama bodies in South Africa, they are rightful to take those space. And so if they decide tomorrow to do calculation, we should follow them. If they decide tomorrow to do Makkah sighting, we should follow them. Because in that process, we would remove the ikhtilaf from society. So that is the background to it. No, they always send it out. Maybe it just didn't come to your group. No, but I always it's always on the MJC group, so they always have it. But what happens is that the ulama bodies themselves also send in their own notice. You with me? So Jamit will send notice and MJC will send notice, but there's also an UXA one, which is like let's call it the main notice, because all the bodies sit on there, and the MJC actually is we the president of the body, we lead the body. Yeah. So that is it. But my final thing is that this is not a matter that we argue about when does Eid start. All I want you to understand is where does the fiqh come from? So the classical fiqh is to do with sighting. There is some ikhtilaf. Is that sighting based on the matla, the sunrise line? Is it based on how 70 to 82 kilometers, or is it regional to the country? And we've adopted now the country view that it applies to the country. That's the main view. Then the second view was the calculation view. That's a minority view and it's a new view. I'm not saying it's a wrong view. I'm saying it's not the classical view. You with me? And then you have the Makki, follow the Makkah thing. It's not the classical view, it's a new view.